Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pep Talks. We are live in the studio. We're on YouTube, and then tomorrow we're going to be on other platforms, audio platforms. And my co-host, Steve Lally, is here.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you again. Good to be seen.
And we have a very special guest today. Yes, a very special guest, comedian, film star.
Yes.
Please welcome Sovereign Syre.
Hi.
Hi,
Hello.
Sovereign.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fantastic.
You look great.
Thank you.
We just were talking about the fact that nobody in this culture has to grow up anymore.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and I've been thinking that it has to do with that people don't get married and have kids like right out of high school anymore.
Right.
And there's all these life skills that happen when you're sort of forced to be a parent. Like when
Absolutely.
you know, like because my mom was a single parent, right? So it grew her up immediately, right? Because you just got to. And I know that for so long we're like, people should have choices and no one should have to do what they don't want. But I was like, I think we've missed the plot here, because I think if people if people were forced to be parents or be responsible for other people or somehow have to hold up, that it would mature them in a way where by the time they got to 30, they would be, like an adult.
Right. Except some parents maintain that like not growing, like they have to do all those hard things, so they have to kind of grow up, but then they fucking escape even more sometimes into know.
You think that's the whole thing, or do you think
I mean, I think it's part of it.
What else is
sure.
What are the other parts? Can you?
Because I have some ideas.
You open a Pandora's box there.
Well, I think also to social media and generally a switch into away from manual labor and into the tech sphere, which allows people to have avatars. It allows people to
avatars are just images of ourselves, right?
But I think that
hide behind is what
we're
you're
allowed
saying.
to be like life becomes a game, right? Life becomes like you're playing The Sims. You project different images of who you are, and the tech behind a lot of entertainment has gotten so good, and being able to stream things into your home and not being connected to manual labor and being out in the real world and working, I think also allows people to experience a kind of immaturity, because they're disconnected from the consequences of their actions. And so I think that what we've seen in this trend of people being less accountable for their actions, I think is tied in a lot of ways to tech and the anonymity of tech, but also just that tech kind of makes you soft.
Tech kind of makes you soft. You know what makes me soft a little bit is Zoloft. Now, what about you? Now, what do you...
Oh my God, I was on Cymbalta.
What makes me soft?
I couldn't come for a year.
Cymbalta? Is that another antidepressant?
It's another antidepressant. I couldn't come for a year, and it made food taste like dirt, which are like my two main ways to cope
How'd you get off
with
that?
Depression, was to fuck and eat. And it took both away, and I was like, well, now what do I do? And I did get better, so it did make me get a life. So I mean,
my
there was
libido
an upside,
is down. My libido.
Thank you for sharing that, Eddie.
What? No,
everybody in YouTube land wanted to know about that.
Well, that's a side effect sometimes of antidepressants
for a lot of people, but usually it goes away.
Yeah.
Mine didn't.
My libido is fine. Thank you, everybody, for showing up.
No, go ahead.
Not to
go
brag.
Ahead. Now,
not
what
to
were you
brag.
Say
I have
about...
that kind of life.
You were going to say about infantilization, because this is infantilization.
Yes.
By the way, me and Steve, I don't know about Sovereign. I think Sovereign, we're pissed today about the Iowa caucuses stealing the motherfucking election away from our man Bernie. Are you a Bernie babe?
I'm not in it enough. I like Bernie the best. Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do to get on this podcast.
Yeah. No. I'm definitely. I think that I like Bernie the best in terms of just consistency. I want to be behind Warren, but the whole thing about the Native American stuff.
What the hell was that about? Do you remember?
I know that people are like, you just got to get over that, and I'm like, well, my dad was Native, and I just don't.
You're part Native?
Well, he's my adoptive father, so I don't.
Oh, okay.
I don't want anyone to come from. Like, I'm not claiming that identity, but it's something I'm.
Hey, Pocahontas.
That would be ironic.
Well, but also, you know, I was, before I got into adult or comedy or anything else, the first jobs that I ever had was I was an ESL tutor working with, you know,
English is a special language. That's what that means.
English is a second language.
Second language.
And a lot, you know, so, but I was always just around people where, you know, your ethnic identity and where you come from and being a minority had real world astonishing consequences on people's lives. And so the whole idea that she used that to get funding for her education, just, I can't get past it. It just speaks to me to character. That's taking opportunities away from people.
Hold it, I don't even know about this. Warren said she was
in college. She was
get funding.
Well, more than that, she published. She stole a Native American recipe for a Native American cookbook. She gave a recipe that she said was her own, and she had plagiarized it.
When?
For I don't have
when she was in college?
This is like in college. This is before before she had any real
Right.
political ambitions, and that's why I think it's actually more important and not less important, is
Right.
because these were things that were done before.
But she just took a
Right.
DNA test. She did a DNA test a year or two ago.
I know, and people are just really coming for this strong woman of color. You know,
This is
she's like 1%.
This
which
is-
is everybody.
Everybody's.
my problem is that's a more minor one. That's
Yeah.
a character one. But my big one is that you say that you're for taxing the rich and regulating the banks and helping the poor, and you're against the war machine, and you're for not bailing out the banks and yada yada, and yet Bernie Sanders runs in 2016, who is the embodies all of those character traits, and you back Hillary Clinton. That was a big red flag to me. That was a major, I don't think she's authentic, and I think her positions would be easily compromised.
Well, the problem with politics is it's full of politicians, and that's people politicking. You know, that's people choosing strategically who to support based on what they think. And everyone's like, well, it's politics. We make concessions here so that when we get in power, we can do this over there. And I'm like, well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's politicians politicking. And so maybe if she felt that Hillary was going to win, it was going to mean more to support this person that you think is going to win, which is why I hate when people use terms like, they're doing really well on the campaign, like their numbers are good. I feel like we shouldn't know how someone's doing on a campaign until election day. Do you know what I mean? This whole idea of the campaigning, where the polling of, they're running a strong campaign, they're really making numbers. To me, it should be ranked choice voting, and it should be the day of the election. And I think our election cycle should be like a month long, like it is in Canada. You know,
how did you really? It's
yeah,
a month
like
long in
I had
Canada?
on my old podcast that you were on, I had Dave Foley on to explain American politics to me, and he's from Canada, and he was explaining that an election cycle in Canada is they campaign for. It was either 1 or 4 months. It's a very short amount of time compared to the year and a half, the 2 years.
And then the election process takes.
It's like ours. It's a day. You know, you go in and you vote. But the campaigning for.
Is only fucking
it's like a
3,
month.
4 months.
Yeah, it's this very short window, and ours is
Thank
just.
God. Yeah, ours
it feels like it keeps expanding over time. We're like,
well, you know what it is too, and why they do all of this, like, the polling. You know, he's polling. It's a fucking reality show.
Yeah.
It's all spectacle. It's all about, Pete Buttigieg is coming out of nowhere. It's all a fucking reality.
What do you think of that footage of him walking with a smile on his face, completely silent, while the press is asking him, do you think it was premature to
Manchurian candidate?
To me, I'm like, that's the exact inverse of when Howard Dean lost the nomination by doing that weird scream. I was like, same thing is happening. It's just the exact inverse. It's like
what did Buttigieg?
It's like
I didn't see this clip.
He's just walking out of an office, and there's all this press there going like, Pete, do you think it was? People are really criticizing that you claimed victory early, because this is when he had claimed it early.
They all did.
And he's just walking, and just like this.
Right. Like oblivious.
Well, it doesn't answer. Well, it's just like his solution to being questioned about what he had done was to just say nothing.
That's funny.
You should pull it up on your phone. I'm sure it's on a million.
I saw it.
It's
Manchurian candidate.
That Steve is calling him the Manchurian candidate because he's programmed. He's a corporate automaton, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
That's what he strikes me as, big time.
Yeah, someone tweeted something like that. They're like, they captioned that video of him, like, when you spent your entire life and your education through Harvard being designed to be a plant, and then the political climate changed at the last minute.
He's a Harvard guy?
I'm not sure. I didn't even do any research on him because I was like, that's never going to happen.
Right.
You know, to me, it's always been between Bernie and Warren, and that Biden was going to be the upset because Biden was going to be our version of Trump, where it's like the one no one seemed to fucking want, but is the one that ends up winning the nomination.
Richard Nixon with dementia. That's Biden. By the way, I
don't know enough about him.
He signed a bill of. Oh my gosh. He's from
Take it easy.
Yeah, he's from Delaware, and he just before the
Delaware, by the way, the home of DuPont, who
cheapest place to incorporate, by the way. If
heard about
AB5
that.
is affecting you, the cheapest place to incorporate is Delaware. Costs you nothing.
Do you have to go there? You have to have a residence there?
Legally.
Oh, okay.
But
you can do it.
You know, everyone knows a guy, right?
I think so. I
mean, are we all law abiding here? Is that what we're?
No.
Is that the shtick? Is that?
No, I mean,
we don't admit anything. I don't
admit nothing. You know, it's time to use all the tricks that corporations have put in place to your benefit, America. So if you're an Uber driver and you've got to suddenly incorporate to still work at Uber with AB5, there are a lot of loopholes that corporations have worked long and hard to put in place. So they have to pay nothing, do nothing, and be responsible for nothing. And we should all take advantage of them now. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think you have to have a certain income, though, to take advantage of them, you know?
Well, once you become an S Corp.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Eddie, you could become an escort.
Well, my escort days are kind of
S Corp.
S
S Corporation.
Oh, S Corp.
S Corp. Yes, S Corps.
I thought you said escort.
I did.
You did.
I mean, you guys would make no money as escorts.
Being escorts?
Yeah, no.
I would just be
the
like,
bloom
hey.
is off the rose, y'all.
I would be kind of like an interesting fetish escort. You know what I mean? Like just
a feeder.
You know,
you could be a feeder.
Oh God, we were talking about that with someone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who were we talking about?
Scott Thompson.
Oh,
Kids in the Hall.
He was so funny.
Yeah.
Did you have him on?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He introduced us to the eaters and the feeders. Are you familiar with that?
Oh yes, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I've been in sex work for a decade, so there's pretty much nothing I haven't heard of.
Well, we hadn't heard of that.
Yeah. What is it? A feeder again? What's a feeder?
A feeder is someone that gets off by
stuffing food.
It's varying degrees. So there's some cam girls where they're an eater, and so
cam girls.
Yeah, like they're on
webcams.
Webcams, and so maybe a person will order her a bunch of Postmates, like really fancy high-end foods, and then wants to watch her eat them, and then perhaps over a long period of time wants to watch her gain weight, like over time. And there's also
that's a lot of money to stay on a cam until people put on some pounds.
Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the whole time.
Right, I know. I'm kidding.
But yeah, no,
these are
I'm going with you.
These may be the same people who didn't have to grow up. I'm just saying these fetishes. These are not poor people's fetishes.
Poor people just want to eat.
We just want to get laid by anybody.
That's true.
Yeah. I definitely think that tech and the modern conveniences that are available to us have absolutely dovetailed with just a complete immaturity.
And what's wild is, and this is going to dovetail into, talking about the fact that already the Democratic National Committee, this app that was supposedly having glitches for these Iowa caucuses, the results are still not all the way in. It's like 80% now.
No, 62%.
No. They updated it.
What is the current?
It's still Buttigieg ahead, but I mean, it was developed by these establishments.
The Shadow Corporation.
Right,
Shadow app.
No, it's called the Shadow app, and it's developed by the Democratic establishment. Bernie said it. Bernie said, "I'm running against the Republican establishment. I'm running against the Democratic establishment." And what I wanted to say is that people are going to need to get in the streets. People are going to really need they can't do that thing where, and what I'm saying is that I agree with you that people are so comfortable because food gets ordered in, Netflix comes in, everybody is just like
sucking on their thumb.
The webcams, they're jerking off to web. First you jerk off, then this is me anyway. First you jerk off, and then you order in food, and because I'm an escort partly, my fetish. Well, people's fetishes are that they just like to have me around.
They do.
There's nothing.
He has an app that people pay him to leave him voicemail messages.
Oh, Cameo?
It's videos.
Yeah.
Oh, it's videos.
Yeah. I got to do one. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, Cameo, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think I actually had just posted a tweet where it was I took a picture of a painting of the tennis court oath, which was in 1789 during the French Revolution at the French Revolution. So they had the Estates General where the king had called the three estates together to basically a State of the Union. And the third estate was not only the peasantry, but also all the middle class that had arisen, anyone that didn't have access to titles or wasn't a member of the church. And they were so frustrated and everyone got 2 representatives. So 2 representatives from each estate, from each canton or whatever, prefecture or whatever you want to call it. And people in Paris were like, I don't know how it was last Estates General, but some shit has changed. There's a middle class now. Like, we're more educated than these fucking inbred, incestuous aristocrats that do nothing all day long but, fuck each other with their faces and eat cake. So there was a fomenting thing. And so they went to an adjacent building called the Royal Tennis Court and basically took an oath together. Like, all the people from the marginalized classes that were representatives came together and were like, fuck the king. We're not even meeting this Estates General until they rearrange who gets how many votes and how many delegates, because we make up 99% of the population. So Abay Sayed had put out this pamphlet, What is the Third Estate? There had been this fomenting kind of rage going on.
Which is happening here.
So I made this tweet where it was a picture of the tennis court oath, like a painting of that. And I was like, what you ordered versus what you got. And it's a picture of Nancy Pelosi, like, tearing his State of the Union speech in half. And I was like, that's where we're at right now. Like, what you ordered was that. What you got was some woman just tearing a speech in half after he gave it on TV. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like what we ordered was rebellion and revolution. Right. And what we got
was an old lady
was a fucking gesture.
A piece of paper.
What we got was a fucking meme. That's what we got. We got a fucking
meme.
gesture.
An empty gesture.
Yeah.
An empty gesture. And Pelosi is part of the problem, but Nancy Pelosi is just an establishment Democrat, and to prove it, during that State of the Union, they introduced a Venezuelan Maduro. I don't know if you saw any of this, but
it's like I get so upset.
No, I know. Me too. I just watched the clips.
Yeah, I can't.
I watched the clips on Democracy Now, which you should watch, everybody. DemocracyNow.org. But Maduro is this puppet that the United States wants in Venezuela. They don't want the elected leader because, he's not playing ball with the United States. Maduro is his name. But they had Guaidó on last night. He was in the chamber, and Pelosi, clapped. So they're Bernie Sanders says that he's taking on the military industrial complex and the prison industrial complex and the pharmaceutical industry and the insurance industry. And the Democrats don't want, the establishment doesn't want him.
Yeah, people are afraid
Democrats.
of what it's really going to take. I'm very good friends with a fellow performer turned philosopher, writer. He's retired. His name's Connor Habib, but he's very
What's his name?
Connor Habib. And he has this podcast called Against Everything.
I like that title.
He interviews big thinkers and public intellectuals about a range of stuff, and he's very radical in his politics. And at first I was like, it's so radical, and now I find myself like, yeah, witchcraft, let's bring it in. But his whole thing is
Witchcraft.
But his thing is that people act like voting is like the most important political action you can take, and he's like, voting is actually the least important thing you can do politically, because you're stuck voting for a system that is so clearly broken and doesn't work and is underserving people, that until you're like, voting is stupid at this point, because what we really need to do is be radically upending the whole fucking system.
Absolutely.
You know, and that scares the shit out of people.
Oh,
people don't want to hear that people in prison should be able to vote. Like people don't want to hear that. Do you know what I mean? And that's the problem with Bernie's. It's not the problem with what he's saying. The problem with people is that they don't like his message because it makes them so fucking uncomfortable, because they've been conditioned their whole lives because it has to do with patriarchy, which is people always think of patriarchy in terms of gender. And that just does a disservice to understanding what patriarchy is. Patriarchy is a paradigm. Patriarchy is a paradigm that says that might makes right, that physical power, the ability to or power over someone else gives you a moral right to do so, right? That's like at the base of patriarchy.
Right.
And we're in a stage where like, that's not going to work no more. And like democracy or republic, what we've got going is still, it's patriarchy. It puts people in prison. It's all about the hell of rules. You know what I mean? It's the whole system is not addressing how the body has changed. Like the body of the people has changed drastically.
The body politique.
Yeah, it's not the same, and it needs new clothes. You know, it needs new structural garments. So the same strictures aren't working.
Absolutely.
You know, and I look at it as if you look at it in comparison to fashion, it's like the prison system is like using corsets. You know what I mean? It's like it's outdated. It's not. You know what I mean? People used to get an outfit and you would have it for like 4 to 7 years before it would wear out, and then you'd make a new one. And I think that's very much like we just keep like recycling the same stuff. And I'm like, things have changed. Like, there are new ways to do things.
I agree. However, so it's the haves. The United States is the haves and the have-nots. And now 3 men, speaking of the patriarchy, 3 men own 50% of the wealth in the country. I mean, when people hear, I say this on stage, by the way. By the way, you do comedy as well. So does Lolly. People need to hear. It's a skill to talk about oppression.
Yes.
As being funny, but it can be done.
Yeah.
You know, it can be done. And I go out there and I say, hey, folks, hey sheep. Hey, sheep, you're supporting a system where 3 men own 50% of the wealth. Do you know that 3 people own 50% of the wealth here in the United States, huh? And you call that a democracy? And then I have to say something funny after that. Usually,
well, because they all think that they're gonna have access to it one day. That if they do all the right things.
That's right, but aren't people realizing that's not going to happen anymore?
And this goes back to what I was talking about, social media and aspirational culture, right? It's like we look at Instagram and social media, and people can live these fake lives, and they really make it seem like you can have that too. And I mean, the media loves a story about someone that started in their mom's basement as like doing their makeup and became $1 million makeup influencer, and now they're on the YouTube's making. Do you know what I mean? Like they love a story like that of like someone going from like nothing to something.
Well, that's that whole reality show. Go ahead.
I do want to interject this, that we were talking about this outside either last week or a couple weeks ago. People, the American culture, and maybe it's a human thing, the idea of making it in the world and having someone take you, having the approval of someone more influential than you say to you, I'm going to help you. That is completely counter-revolutionary. So it's very hard for people who've decided, especially in this city, to get into show business where they're going to get up in front of somebody and impress somebody, and then that person they impressed is going to give them a better life. That whole dynamic is counter-revolutionary to what we're talking about. So you're talking about something it doesn't fit. It is like a prisoner with a corset. It really is like a prisoner wearing a corset. It's not going to happen. It doesn't fit. And there are very few, you're 1 in a million. Yeah, it can be done. But most comedians, it's just so hard to learn to do comedy in a competent way. Most comedians they want commercial work. They just want commercial work.
What do you talk about on stage?
I don't talk about porn, but that's for different reasons. Like I don't usually talk about porn because
now you do porn. We haven't really.
Yes.
We haven't. Oh yes, really...
I'm an adult performer. So I've always been a writer. That's what I went to school for. Went to graduate school for that. Whatever.
Do you write some of these scenarios in the adult? I'm kidding.
Actually,
John comes up.
Yeah,
I can see you typing. All right, Fred comes over to fix.
Actually, I actually did just write a scene for a feature where, and there are places where I do try to get political, even in that stuff. Like I did a scene where it was me, a trans girl, and then a guy. And in the storyline, I wanted to write a storyline where we never talk about the fact that she's trans, where it's like she just exists as like a person. And in the story, and like the whole story isn't revolving around the fact that she is a trans woman. It's just, she's just my friend in the story. And like, so I'll try to sneak it in that way, where it's like these little subtle things that you can do to kind of just be a little bit subversive. So I do that. But I also do stand up, and I've been doing that for about 4 years. I toured the country doing that with another performer, adult performer turned comedian named Aaliyah Janine. She's been doing it longer than me.
What's her name?
Aaliyah Janine.
Aaliyah
Drag
Janine.
queen?
Aaliyah.
Or
No, she's but she retired from adult probably about 6 years ago. I think she was probably the first. She wasn't the first porn person to do stand up, but I think she's the first person to do it in a very serious way, where like she went in and like kind of did it the right way, I guess. Like went in, did her time, did the open mics, was like hosting shows, putting on her own shows, networking, going out to see comedy every night, living in New York City, and like really trying to do it in a way that with a lot of integrity. But she talks about a lot in her act. And so the main reason I don't talk about it is there are a few performers that also do stand up. The main reason is there's only so many jokes you can tell about porn.
Yeah.
And it's like she does it well, and she, I think she got it.
She already has that.
She got it.
She
You know what I
already
mean?
has
It's like I don't want to sit and have to watch other people's acts over and over again to make sure that we're not telling the same jokes. Do you know what I mean? Like she's done it, and she's done it really smart and really well. And like, I mean, that's not all she talks about, but she kind of nailed it. And then also every comedian has jokes about porn. And I'm like, so now I have to listen to everyone's jokes about porn to make sure we're not telling the same jokes. So for me, it's easier, but I talk about it, but the way I couch it is I talk about it as sex work, because that to me is more relatable, because everyone's had a job that like takes a lot out of them, or your coworkers are ridiculous, or you're asked to do things that like you don't fucking want to do, or that they didn't pay what they should have paid, or that made them feel like a whore. Like everyone's had that experience with work, right? Because everyone's had a fucking job. And so I talk about it, but I usually talk about it couched in terms of sex work. So I'll have a joke where maybe I used to open with like, I won Miss Junior Hawaiian Tropics when I was 12 years old, and I have been doing sex work ever since.
Really?
You know, like, because it gets you in and it gets you the fuck out. You know what I mean? We're in, you know exactly what my comedy is going to be like. It's going to be dark. We're going to go there. You know I'm a sex worker. You know I'm a whore. We're in. I don't have to explain anything else. There's no fat on that joke. And it does immediately gets you like where I want you.
Right.
With porn, it's like you got to do all this explaining. I've tried to, because I'm friends with Mark Maron, and I've featured for him before and stuff. And he had asked me like, "Why don't you talk about it?" And I was like, "Because it's like you gotta spend 5 minutes explaining that you do porn, and then they don't know if that's a setup to a joke or if you're being serious. And then you do the stuff, and then as soon as you say the word porn, it's like they're up in their seats, but that's not laughing. Like up in your seat is not the same as laughing.
That's right.
And then, you know, people just have strong feelings about pornography.
Yeah.
It's like women, a lot of women really don't like it. And they're like, is she okay? Is she being trafficked? And then the dudes are maybe like trying to Google you because they want to like, it eases so much chaos into something that's already so fucking hard. Which is like
stand-up comedy.
Which is stand-up comedy and getting the audience under your control.
And you're 4 years into this, so that means you've intuitively figured out it's just easier to not talk about it and develop.
Well, I totally agree with Sovereign that if she says I'm a porn star, people are not going to be interested in her comedy.
Nope. They're gonna be good. I've had one time I talked about on stage, like I've been really lucky in that comedians have been very open armed with me and have never given me a hard time about where I come from. So that's been really amazing. People have been really supportive. But I've had it where I was on a show where it was a comedian that wasn't as experienced, and I was doing my act, and I came down, and he's like, "Oh, I was looking up your scenes while you're on," and he starts showing me on his phone like one of the scene of mine he was watching while I was doing stand-up, and I was just like, okay. And then luckily the producer of the show just like walked up, grabbed his phone, and was like, "You're out, bye, like we're not doing that here."
Oh, wow.
It was like that not on my, like, we're not doing that today, we're not doing that ever, and you should never. He's like, "I don't know what's wrong with you, but you're not on any more of my shows." And like I was lucky, like he saw it like as it was happening. The guy was an eagle eye and just saw it and was just like, "Nope, we're not doing that." But after that, I was like, "Yeah, I'm never talking about it on stage again," because you know, I like.
Well, plus you can, but
I don't want
you
that,
can spend
you know?
your time developing, saying less superficial things anyway. You can You can, like for me, when I started 4 years, there were things that were easy, like sex jokes were easy, cheap and easy.
You were in sex work how many years, Steve?
Probably about 2.5.
2.5.
I was an escort.
Right.
Well, it's like when I talk about it, like I'll talk about, I have a big 12-minute joke that I do. It's a storytelling joke, but it's about me camming on election night when Trump won. Right. And it's like, people will always come up to me and be like, oh my God, that Trump joke. I still think about it sometimes. Like I'll have people come to me, like other comedians will be like, I sometimes just think about that joke. It's so dark. But like, so I talk about
Are you going to tell us?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
after that.
You
like
don't have to. If you'd rather not.
Well, no, I mean, basically the punchline of it is like I'm camming and all this stuff, and I end up watching another cam person who's a guy, and he's like sucking his own dick, right? I mean, I've already told this story so on tape, so yeah. But basically,
He should have been camming.
The crux of the joke is essentially like it's election night, and it's like I'm feeling sad, everyone's feeling sad, like all this stuff is going on, and like as I'm watching this guy, he's like, "Do you want to watch me suck my own dick?" And I was like, yes, of course. Like the answer is always yes if anyone asks you that question.
Yeah.
I just want to see how, just the logistics.
I've seen it.
But
I've seen it.
the joke is basically
Steve has allowed me to.
But there's like this long buildup as I'm telling the story, and sort of the denouement of it is like, and as I'm watching a guy come into his own mouth, I'm thinking, I may not have the president I want, but I definitely have the president I deserve. Because it's kind of like, it's more like it's a takedown of like all of us.
Yes.
Like as we're all collectively watching this man suck his own dick and come into his own mouth, I'm like, yeah, we got the president we deserve.
You know,
because this is where we're fucking at.
Absolutely.
You know?
I agree with you. I think that one reason that Trump is so hated is he's the worst of all of us.
Oh, yeah.
He is the manifestation of the worst of us. Like just that narcissistic fucking self-absorption and me, and everybody is trying to kill me. And I've been like that, like, you know, everybody's trying to get us, you know, and like I want more. He's an addict. He's a crazy, he's a dry drunk is what he is. By the way, he doesn't drink.
Yeah, but he's a dry drunk.
He's a dry
for sure. I know what you're
drunk.
talking about. And yeah, because my parents were in recovery, and yeah there's a difference because there's that person that is white knuckling it.
Yes.
To fucking not do it.
And they're mean.
And it seeps out everywhere.
They don't have a spiritual connection because the only way
they've never done any work on themselves.
Right.
You know, but I mean, I don't think people want to give Trump credit for like, well, he's like a genius at this, and that. And I'm like, if I believed in my heart that was true, I wouldn't hate him. Do you know what I mean? But I genuinely believe he lacks any of the self-awareness required to be this super genius that's making all these moves.
But for the past 40 years,
he's
for the past 40 years, we've had people representing us, and I don't just mean the presidents. I mean all of our elected representatives, and we kind of don't know who they serve. And I think the primitive thing, I don't think a Trump. I don't think
they serve.
I don't think a Trump supporter would like articulate this, but I think what they're attracted to is they feel like him serving himself is an improvement from the people who've been serving these background shadowy entities, these powers and principalities that are who knows who and what corporation and what deep state they've been fucking in bed with. And then here comes this guy who is, by the way, only in support of anyone who's in support of him. Yeah. So and to them there's this primitive desire that he's fighting against.
Well, they feel like he's not a politician. I have followers that there's a lot of conservatives are porn fans because they pay for their porn.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying.
Not
so
us.
so
Not
I'm that doesn't make me careful. I still say whatever I feel on social media. I'm not afraid of losing fans in that way. But some of them have been kind enough when I've asked, in a real way, explain to me. I want to understand.
The Trump thing?
Yeah, like why? And a lot of it really comes down to he's not a politician. And this feeling that like, maybe he is serving himself, but at least he's not serving anybody else.
In other words, it's a big fuck you to the politicians. And I'll tell you who they're serving the last 40 years.
Oh, and and he gets things done.
No, yeah.
And it's like, and I'm like, well, he
gets bad things done,
well, it's
like
not that
tax breaks for the
Yeah.
very wealthy, throwing kids
A $9 billion,
cages.
$9 trillion wall, or however.
Well, he's very big at the grand. He's very good at grand gestures, you know. And so it's the gesture of putting kids in cages. It's the gesture of a travel ban. It's the gesture of the coal plant. It's the gesture of he's good at these big gestures, and the fact that he has never stopped rallying.
This goes back to the indictment, by the way.
And it's like people.
Well, that's fascist shit to me. That rally shit. That's scary. I mean, I have not been at one of those rallies because I don't want to get near them. But I've had friends who've gone to those rallies, and they go, "It's fucking terrifying." The Trump rallies. It's fucking terrifying.
What aspects of it are terrifying? Just
the hate you feel. You know,
okay.
it's fascistic. You know, if that's a word. You know.
Yeah. I think just fascist.
I think, look,
fascist.
100.
It's just fascist.
I like to make up words.
100 million people. Half the people who are registered voters didn't vote in the last election.
Unbelievable.
And 75,000 people in the state of Michigan. I don't know the other states, but I do know this state voted, but did not vote for president of the United States. 8 to 9 million people who voted for Trump also voted for Obama.
That is a wild stat. Did you know that stat?
No.
And there's one more. I forget. Oh, take into all account the people who didn't support Trump but voted against Hillary Clinton, which I don't even know what that number is. But certainly, we're not talking about a tremendous amount.
Well, it goes back to Sovereign saying the system is broken.
Right.
Yeah.
Because corporate money has co-opted all of these motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Which is why people say, well, at least Trump isn't a politician because they're all in the pocket. Sanders does not take any donations from, anybody except citizens. So
I mean,
I'm hoping he catches fire.
my biggest fear about Bernie is his age. Like, I wish he was.
People tell that about me. I tell them.
I mean, like,
I'm working out in the park.
But it's a genuine fear, just like with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, where it's like sometimes you just feel like, where you just feel like, okay, there's like one. We got one in there, and they're not only are they older, but it's like they are being tried again and again and again. All of these cases that are waiting to be fed into the Supreme Court, and it's like Ruth Bader Ginsburg is like the fucking last.
Bernie seems to be in good health, though.
He seems in good health.
I mean, I know he had a minor heart scare, but
I just mean like in general.
Trump is going to have a heart. He's going to just keel over one day. I mean, that's his body.
We could only hope.
Well, part of me wonders. I was talking with a friend. I was like, wouldn't it be weird? And I'm not wishing death on anybody. I'm really not. But I was like, wouldn't it be weird if it's like we woke up tomorrow and he had died in his sleep? Trump had just died, like it had just just the thing that happens to people is like
the
like
conspiracy
it just happened.
The conspiracy theorists would be out.
But you see what I'm saying? I was like what would people do if suddenly he was just gone? Would they go back to work?
Yeah, Trump
or
Pence would be president.
Would it be like it was nothing had happened? Or would these changes that are going, like would the momentum of these movements keep going? Or would people go like, okay.
Well, yeah, I think partly. Well, people don't understand that if, let's say, Trump is gone. First of all, what takes his place is an evangelical lunatic in Mike Pence. He's even scarier than Trump because he's another Manchurian. He can't wait for the end of days. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the minute he was president,
he's not
we
motivated.
would find out about like all the gay sex with escorts and the meth habit.
Has he done that?
Male escorts?
Well, he's an evangelical.
I don't have to know him personally
to kind of know his type of guy.
To know that 100% anybody that has that strong of feelings about that subject matter.
A religion?
Like about queerness and homosexuality.
Right.
Like 100%.
Yeah.
There is somebody that he fucks. That he goes to a fucking love hotel with, whether it's once a year, once every 5 years, whether it's every weekend. There is somebody out there that is taking care of that. I've been in my job too long. It's all like.
What is it? Does it go under? Yeah, go ahead.
In some ways, people are all the same. And why we have such rigid rules, I think, around sex and stuff like that, and we have these really strong opinions about sex work and is it work and not like where women all of this stuff is because sex is like the place where like the base most essential fucking parts of who we are is expressed.
That's
through,
why I scream. I scream during sex. I scream bloody murder.
And that's when he's alone.
And that's...
But I mean, if you think about it, I was on set the other day. I was on set 2 days ago, and I was just an actor that day. But they were doing the sex scene, and the girl and the guy are in the room, and she's getting into it, and it's getting very loud. And I turned to my co-star, and I was like, you know what's funny about sex is if you didn't know what it was, right? Good or bad, if you were walking by that room right now, you would think you were hearing someone like being murdered. Right. Like if you didn't know what sex was and that there's a biological thing that happens that like where we want to vocalize, like that's a biological drive. Like it's like being quiet during sex is incredibly unnatural. It's like primitive to start making noises. So it's like if you didn't know that and you just walked by, you'd be like, this is like the most violent. And then if you just watched a sex act without understanding what it was, like it is the most ridiculous
We all
looking...
did, by the way. We all did watch a sex act without knowing what it was at one time or another.
Oh,
all
when
of
we're little
us
kids.
have.
Yeah.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I think
kids,
I was 15 or 14 when I saw porn. I saw Sika. You know Sika?
Yeah, of course.
I saw Sika.
Yes.
I saw
Yes,
her
Sika.
a lesbian
She's still
porn,
around.
and my brain.
active, but-
I mean, you talk about heroin, man. I never recovered from that. That was like was the end, the beginning of the end.
I
Right.
remember watching like through a cracked bedroom door. It's my mom and a boyfriend were watching a porn. I think I was probably like 5 or 6, and I think
Whoa, that's young.
But like I think I saw like 10 seconds. I mean, it was like enough for me to like lean in, realize something grown up was going on, and like
But
bail.
you remember it from 5 or
but
6.
But because I saw the screen and all I saw was like a close-up shot of insertion, and like I don't think I even knew what a vagina was. Like I knew I had one, but I never thought about it or looked at, do you know what I mean? Like I was just like, and I definitely never seen an adult one, which looks very different from a child's, right? So it's like I remember just being like, I didn't even know what I was looking at. Do you know what I mean?
Remember it vividly.
But oh my God, because I knew it was something. Because mom and her boyfriend, the door was closed. They were having private time, which I knew was that
off limits.
I knew that, like, because my mom had pulled me aside and been like, when men and women like each other, they do this thing. And then the first time she caught me masturbating when I was like super young, and I was just like in the living room or something, because I was just like something felt good. I didn't associate it with like.
That's how I still do it.
And
Something feels good.
She had pulled me aside and been like, you're not doing anything wrong, but some things are for private.
Was it a pillow or stuffed animal or something like that?
No, I think it was just like my hand or something. But but she had pulled me aside and been like, some things are for private. Like when we take showers or when we go to the restroom, or when we do things like that. Like there's certain things that we do in private. It's very courteous. It's rude to do that in front of other people. Like because it's very.
She was giving you etiquette.
Yes. So she was like, you're not doing anything wrong, but you shouldn't do that in front of other people because there's a time and a place, and it's rude to do it in front of people you don't know. That kind of thing, right? It's like masturbate, like use the restroom with the door open,
right.
Like just
Louis C.K. found that out
the hard way.
Speaking of being rude, I have to go to the bathroom. You guys
go ahead. You go to the bathroom.
Wash your hands. Wash your hands.
All right. Now that Steve's out of the room.
Now that he's gone.
What minute are we at, Emma?
42. 43.
43. Okay.
So
cool.
Is there a reason you do it for an hour? I always think it's funny when people are like, it's an hour, and I'm like,
you're great,
you're in
by the way.
charge. Like you can make it as long as you want.
You're great, and we could. What time do we have to be? Excuse me. What time do we have to be out of here today?
Next show is at 5:30.
5:30.
Okay, we got a minute.
We have some time.
Yeah.
But what I want to talk about is, I have a joke, and
Okay.
it goes like this. He knows it, so he's not missing anything. I have a joke where I go, I listen to porn in my car. And I say it's for 2 reasons. By the way, you're getting free material now, okay?
Right.
You fuckers in YouTube land. Anyway,
Free material.
I listen to porn in my car for 2 reasons. One is I think it's the right thing to do. We live in a dystopian age. It's a cross between a Charles Dickens novel and a Philip K. Dick novel. Dickens because there's half the country's in dire poverty, and Philip K. Dick because of all this high technology, right? And we're in the end of days. The ecosystem's collapsing. So what else do you listen to? Porn. And then I said, the other reason I listen to porn in the car is I will not watch it anymore because it's gotten too violent. It's a reflection of our militarized society. Everything is hyper-masculine. People are hung from a hook. they're all in a hood. They have a ball gag in their mouth. They're beaten with whips and chains. They're spit on, and I come too quickly.
Yeah.
So I will only, and that's the big punchline.
I know, but I'm going like, this sounds like a great
Do
time.
you know his material?
I know, and I know exactly who books that, and I know what site you're watching.
You do, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely know what site I at least know the network of sites you're watching. That's definitely kink.com or Hardtide. And favorite, that's probably Sex and Submission.
Yes.
Bound. Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Sex and
And by the
great
way,
fucking site, by the way. Like,
but
that I'm like, I can tell you exactly that.
But now here's the thing, porn, and this will be a little intellectual discussion on porn, right?
Yeah.
People are turned into objects.
Yes, isn't it?
The
amazing? It's
humanity,
amazing.
humanity is gone.
Yes.
I remember an old girlfriend telling me that nothing turns her on more than to be turned into an object. What is that about?
Yes!
What is that about?
Because we're fucking. It's like
So what she's saying is it's okay.
Fucking is like my whole thing is like, I got so much shit going on. Like, I have 2 projects in development for mainstream TV right now. That's amazing. I have a podcast. I have a YouTube series.
I love how she went into a resume.
No, but what I'm saying is that it's like I do stand up. I try to do it like 5 nights a week. I also like.
You're busy.
I have like a lot of shit going on, and I'm the CEO of my own company, right? So it's like when I call Ramon Nomar to come over to my house to fuck me, like that's self-care. And that is me going for an hour. I want to not fucking be me. I don't want to be thinking about Donald Trump. I don't want to be thinking about what my numbers are on OnlyFans right now. I don't want to be thinking about like what steps I need to take to try to get maybe 5 minutes on Conan or something. Like, I don't want to be thinking about any of that stuff. I want to be completely reduced. I want to be like a fucking fuckhole. I want to be like, I am so desirable that like, this is how I exist for you. It's like, you just the sight of me turns you on. You just want to fuck me. And I get to just be like, for a minute, it gets to take you out of like being you. You get to unplug from the fucking matrix for like an hour and just kind of be.
Right, but you get to do that.
Right.
And the rest of us, most of us, 90% of us, have to watch it. So here's where it gets into a thing where you might not have the vantage point from which to observe, where the rest of us are not. Sex is not easily accessible to most of us.
Okay.
And so it's not the most healthy. And I'm not saying it's not good, because I am a total like you. I dig all that stuff, but to just watch it and be an observer of it and not participate in it, it has a eroding effect on the mind if there's no human contact with another person.
Right. Yeah.
And so and it's not
I never finish watching porn and go, that was great. I'm ready to attack the day now.
Well, no,
now I feel. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I don't, because for one, I feel like that women and men experience pornography in very different ways. First of all, most women I know, it's not that they don't use porn, they just don't watch it. They tend to read it, like because women tend to need a lot of context around, like, well,
they need a bigger,
like why is this hot? You know what I mean? Like my friend Dana Vespoli, she's a director. She can turn me on just like, I'll be like, call her and be like, so what's the latest script you're writing? And she'll break down the scenario, because she's got this whole thing. She's like, and then like he's an author and she's this young student and she comes in and like, this is how he dominates her. But it's like, there's no ties or anything. It's just kind of like, she's because she's got this whole intellectualization around like why the tension, because she's all about that tension, right? In a scene. So she writes scenes that have a lot of tension around like power dynamics or there's a lot of stakes. Right, because she makes porn that she's a woman. She makes stuff that is hot to her. So for women, like, so we tend to read books and stuff because like we want like, because we like, for us the tension is in like the stakes, right? Whereas I think that men's reptilian brains are a little bit more activated just by like the immediate visual of like ass, tits, vagina, like get your dick hard. You need to procreate. Like, I think it's a more reptilian kind of trigger. My friend Ed Salazar, he's a comedian.
Yeah, I know Ed.
Yeah, so he was just, he's like, I think what it is it's like you're jacking off, and when you come, there's something in your body that's like, I'm supposed to be doing this with somebody. No. Like, I'm supposed to be doing this inside someone or some, right. So there's like an innate
that
loneliness.
Emptiness. Yes. Yeah.
And I actually was with Mark Maron, but he had Terry Crews on his show.
Porn star?
No,
no,
Terry
no,
Crews,
Terry
the
Crews,
actor, the comic
actor.
actor, brother.
Yeah.
Black guy.
Well, there was a whole section of the interview where Terry Crews is breaking down that he had the sex addiction issue and a huge porn addiction and had to go to rehab for it and all this kind of stuff. And it's that thing where it's like whenever I catch an episode of Maron's podcast and there's any throwaway statement about porn or sex work or anything, I'm likely to sort of text him and be like, hey dude, because he's like my good friend. I'm like, maybe occasionally I'll be like, hey, like, let's talk about this idea. Cause I think maybe, it was a little, but and I was like, porn addiction? Like
everybody's addicted to sex, aren't they?
Addiction? Cause like,
Ooh, you don't believe that, huh? People are addicted to porn.
I'm like, I had parents that were heroin addicts and I've known people that overdosed. And I remember when addiction was describing like a clinical circumstance that could be literally life threatening. Right. And so in my head, yeah, like, but he kind of turned me around. Cause I was like, I don't, and he's like, come on. He's like,
I'm with him.
But like, he also was saying, and what I realized through talking, like through this text exchange was, he's like, I know men that have like really had their lives ruined by this. And it's just like darkness and obsession. And I was like, you know what? I make porn, so we don't watch porn. Like we never watch porn because we make it. We're in it. It's all of our friends. Like how can I get off when I know you? And I know
look at Fred.
Yeah, exactly.
He's on Viagra
well,
again.
it's like you sometimes watch other stand-up comedians, but I
do. I watch other stand-up comedians.
Like, but there are probably other times when you're just like, whatever. Like you're socializing at the club. You're not sitting and watching everyone set like intently.
Right.
So, or you might have some people you really enjoy, but right. So it's the same thing. But what I realized was, I was like, but even with my guy friends that aren't in porn, it's not like they're going to sit and open up to me about like the porn they watch and stuff like that, because they don't want me to perceive them as a loser or they don't want me to think that they judge my job.
I'll open up to you and tell you, I can't watch porn, or I can't get off on porn that it doesn't seem like, it seems like the people are faking it, or it's too overly produced, or I like amateur, produced, like a guy with a fucking iPhone and his girlfriend, and it seems real, and she seems like she's really into it.
No, I don't like that.
You don't like that?
Well, that's like OnlyFans is really revolutionized. Like I think I make more money on my OnlyFans now. OnlyFans.com. Sovereign Syre. I make more money on that now probably than I do on set, and it's because it is like, it's all amateurs. A lot of it's even just solo stuff. It's not even, it's just me, but it's very like, I don't think I ever wear makeup on it. I don't think I ever, and anyone that I do content with.
So it's very real?
Yeah. And anyone I do content with on it is like, because it's for me and I get paid by my subscribers. It's not like I'm getting paid a fee to be on set. If I do happen to ask someone to come over, like, do you want to film something or whatever, we can put it on our OnlyFans. It's only going to be someone I like. Do you know what I mean? Because it's my time. So it's like, so even if they do, occasionally when I do post, I mean, I post stuff there every day, but it's a lot of like solo stuff in me. But like, if I do happen to post a scene with someone, it's going to be someone I like, and it's going to be us on our iPhones. Cause like, I don't want to set up fucking Klieg lights and
I know.
I don't want to do all that shit.
When I was on the road like 7 years ago, there was this girl, I had never hooked up with her, but she had come to my shows a few times in a Florida place. And we had this wild, crazy night, and she gave me her phone and she taped all this sex I had with her. So I have that, and every now and again I watch that and I cry.
Did she have an OnlyFans?
No, she wasn't she was just a girl coming to my show.
That's a lot of them now.
Yeah. Well,
that's the other interesting thing is OnlyFans has become like
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans is
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans is a platform where people subscribe to your feed. So it's like Twitter, but it's behind a paywall, and then you can DM with people, or you can put things on your feed, like you can do a scene and put it on there, and you set your own subscription price and stuff like that. And anyway, so I know so many. OnlyFans has become a part of pop culture. It's like, it's in rap songs, it's referenced on TV. It's like people are like, oh, drop that OnlyFans link, because now it's this thing where the girl next door, it's like everyone has an OnlyFans link, like an OnlyFans account where they're posting their nudes. Some of the most successful girls on the platform, and I mean girls making 20, 30 grand a month with like 10,000 subscribers or whatever, are girls that have never set foot on a porn set.
Isn't it just
have never been in a strip club. They're girls that they refer to it as like, I'm an entrepreneur and this is my online business.
Isn't it possible that the attraction of that is that the fan is just with you and they're not watching you with somebody else? Isn't that?
I mean, there's some people that like that. There's some people that like scenes. There's some people, but I think ultimately it's that if you want to see a free, bright and wide, no plot or something like that thing, you can go to Pornhub and watch it for free. But if you're a genuine fan of my stuff and you want it, like, I'll do things, I'll go live while I'm taking a shower. I'm not doing anything innately sexual in the shower. I'm just in the shower, but I'm just like talking about what I'm going to do that day.
I film my showers and nobody's interested in my showers.
He's fucking around. He has thousands of Instagram reactions.
I mean, you could really test out that feeder theory. Really, you could just
the theater theory.
The feeder theory. You could, you would just start going live.
All right, everybody, I have a new loofah. Now, as you know, I shower with my clothes on because I don't want to upset you.
But I mean, it's like it allows people to interact with you, and as much as you know, I'm actually I'm going to be part of a new series on epics that is called the new. Well, I don't know how much I can say, but really, it's part of an ongoing docu-series. But this one is focusing on how adult has changed because of these platforms that have really sort of empowered the talent. So it's harder
the technology.
Well, it's harder to argue that I'm being exploited if, like, I'm casting the scene, I'm shooting the scene, I'm picking the location, I'm picking how I look, I own the scene, I market it, I sell it, and I keep all the money. It's like harder to kind of argue exploitation, but what that also means is that I wear like 8 different hats, right? So and so now a
lot of people have a fetish for hats, but go ahead.
And I mean, I had taken about 1.5 years off to do stand-up exclusively. And then when I came back, the biggest change was girls weren't calling themselves porn stars anymore. They were calling themselves sex workers. They were calling themselves adult influencers. And they were calling themselves, most importantly, entrepreneurs. And they were viewing themselves like, I'm a boss. And like, that's the thing is I'm a corporation. I do my own marketing, my own PR, my own casting, my own booking, my own scheduling. I do everything. But in that same sense, everything about my image and everything about how I make money is under my control. You know what I mean? Which and that is very appealing. That's really appealing to a younger generation of women who have come up where the shame around sex and stuff like that is gone. Everyone has nudes. Everyone has a sex tape. That happened with phones, right? That happened with technology. So once that first wave of people where their sex tapes were leaked or their nudes were leaked, after that first wave of stuff happened, so now you have this generation of people that are like, yeah, like everyone has fucking nudes somewhere, right? So like the shame around that stuff is gone. And then you're dealing with we're about to go into another economic depression, but you're also dealing with the people where, like,
we're about to go to another.
Right. So this is a way for women to make.
You know about that.
Yeah. So it's when you're looking at people that a new generation of millennials and then the next generation, the Zoomers that are coming in. Like, I'm a millennial, and then Zoomers are like the people that are under 21, probably.
What? Yeah, that's what they're called.
A millennial's like 20 to 40,
right?
And then a Zoomer is anyone that's like being born right now to like a 20-year-old now. So those are people that have just always had all. But so, you know, millennials and then Zoomers especially that are coming in. They don't have sex shame around stuff. They have the technological ability to do it. And we're in an economic situation in which, for a lot of people, you know, they don't want to be saddled with college debt. There are fewer and fewer jobs for them when they get out. They've seen the volatility of the marketplace. They've seen how rapidly markets can completely disappear and crumble. You know what I mean? Like, so I went in for graduate school, and by the time I came out, there were no newspapers left. There was no one that was like paying for investigative journalists. I mean, like, those things had contracted so fucking tightly that the only real work you could get in journalism.
I don't.
That's right.
I got to disagree with you about the sex shame thing. You have your own unique experience, but I think young people I'm not saying the sex shame thing is gone, but I think it's manifesting itself in a different and strange ways. Meaning, when I was a teenager, I remember young females being completely uninhibited about wanting to sleep with anybody. Meaning using their power. Now, I don't think they wanted to get known for it,
right?
But they weren't, especially if you get to know a young girl who's really hot, she wasn't gonna, you know, you knew, everybody kind of knew. And we all kind of accepted it. It was just, I mean, people did make fun of people and shit.
Right, yeah.
But Now it's in a situation where I think young females are, oh, that's creepy. That's like the term creepy is like everything's creepy.
Well,
this thing is creepy. That thing is creepy.
People have bigger issues now. So it used to be like, don't slut shame me. Now, I was talking to my mom about this, and I was like, because she was asking, do you have trouble finding relationships because of
Yeah, I
your
was
job?
going to ask you that too.
And I was like, no, not at all. And I'm like, luckily for me, I don't like older men. Like I like them, but I'm not. Luckily for me, I don't have like a fetish for like older guys.
Why?
Because they do. They do. They worry. They
get
can't.
jealous.
They can't get over it. And as soon as that happens, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go fuck a 25-year-old with abs and an 8-inch dick.
Who's
See ya.
they? Who's they?
Like, whenever I've tried
That would crush me, by the way.
Whenever I've tried to date older men, it's like they think they're gonna be okay with it, and then, and I understand. I have empathy. I get it, and I'm like, and that's why I just end it, because I'm like, like, I'm not for you. Like, this is like, you're gonna make me feel like shit about myself, and I'm gonna drive you insane.
Yeah.
Like, and it's never gonna stop, until you like make me quit, and then I resent you for fucking with my income and making me economically dependent on you, or I'm gonna make you accept it even though you never really do, and you're just gonna fucking hold on to that resentment until you fucking hate me.
Can you totally fall head over heels in love?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. I tend to date younger people, but I told my mom, I was like, it used to be like, oh, your girlfriend's a slut. I'm like, the younger people were concerned with things like, what gender are you? Like, the issues are just bigger. Like, it's not like, well, people accept that my girlfriend's a porn star. It's like, well, people accept that my girlfriend is trans. It's like the thing that the issues that we are dealing with are just so much bigger. We're worried about like power dynamics and sex. And like, a lot of us, people make fun of millennials and different people for like relationship anarchy, like polyamory and open relationships. But we're coming from looking at our parents, and we're like, y'all are like divorced, unhappy, fucking miserable,
True, right?
Single parents, like the AIDS crisis. That there were so many things.
That was my generation, the AIDS thing. That totally fucked up my adolescence.
I had an older friend that you said AIDS was our Vietnam. It was kind of that pivotal moment,
especially
in the culture
for boys,
Yeah.
for boys, because the previous generations were all in a sexual. Basically, in the 70s and 80s, everybody were fucking. So if you were a teenager in the 90s, which I was,
like all your friends were,
you were fucked.
Yeah.
You weren't fucking. You were fucked, because in order for a girl to fuck a guy, he had to really be offering her something of importance or something. He had to be of some level of importance, or she had to have something she needed. Because people were afraid to fuck, and if women are afraid to have sex because they're going to get something that's going to kill them,
right? Yeah, and so I think that this is a generation where it's like the problems that we're dealing with are just kind of different. The things we're concerned about, and so sex, our attitudes towards sex and relationships are just so different. Where it's like, my thing is, I've never been hard for me to date because I've never been monogamous. Even before I ever did adult, I watched the older people in my community, and I watched them going through their struggles. Women like with deadbeat dads, like guys that just like wouldn't show up and take care of child support, abusive relationships, all kinds of stuff, right? People getting cheated on, that kind of drama, domestic violence stuff.
Domestic violence.
People, I mean, people in jail over pussy. You know what I mean? Like, because they walked in on somebody and had a rage out and fucking beat the shit out of someone and went to jail for 2 years. It's like you just saw that stuff play out, and I was just like, yeah, not for me. And so I moved to a big city. I moved to New York, and I was like, cool, I'm good.
You lived in New York, huh?
Mm-hmm. I was in New York for 3 years. I worked there
Wow.
I left my hometown with a suitcase and $200, and I never came home. I went to New York, and I worked as a model for 3 years, and then I got scouted into adult, moved out to Los Angeles.
What was the last regular job you had?
I still have regular jobs now.
Were you a pool boy?
Before the irregular?
I got my first job was when I was 12. I worked at a ballet studio as like a receptionist working off tuition. And then I was a phone psychic when I was 16. I was a phone psychic, reading tarot cards for one of those 1-800 numbers, but all the guys wanted phone sex. And so at 16, I was 16 and a virgin. I didn't know anything about sex.
Well, tarot and phone sex are very closely linked.
And so I'd have these old ladies that also worked the phone lines, because it was like a phone bank, like trying to teach me how to do phone sex at 16, when I'm just like, I have like no, like, I don't even know what it
Just to keep him on the phone longer.
Because I knew
basically.
how math worked. And like, so like when I really think about it, I've probably been a sex worker since like day one. Because I was like,
You never had a regular job.
I knew math, and I was like, okay, I just gotta keep him on the phone.
I was a bike messenger.
But like,
I was in great shape back then.
I worked, and then I
very
worked.
sexual.
I was an English as a second language tutor. I worked 3 jobs to get through school. So I was an English second language tutor. I taught English and creative writing, and then I worked at a bar. I was at a pool hall. I was like try to hustle pool and stuff too on my off shifts. And then I
was an improv.
I always worked. I was from the time I was 12. I was just like because we grew up poor, so I just was like everybody works. Everybody works.
I was an improv comedy traffic school instructor. That's
I would have taken that course. I tried to. They didn't. When I went to driving school, I wanted to take a comedy course.
I got laid a lot.
and they didn't have them in my town.
You did?
Yes, I was 22. I was 22, and
you were beautiful at 22.
Thank you,
from
Eddie.
the pictures I've seen.
What is about stand-up? I mean, people really try to fuck you when you do. Like people are always like, stand-up, they're clowns.
There was
and
no
I'm like,
stand-up. It was
I
a
do,
4-hour class letting people get out of their
I know,
ticket.
but like I do porn, and people won't ever hit on me. I think maybe because they're intimidated.
Probably.
But when I do stand-up stuff where I don't talk about porn, so unless I say something directly, right, they don't know.
They want to fuck you.
And it's like, but that's where I get like
laughter
so
is an
much
aphrodisiac.
action.
Are you dressed provocatively when you do your stand-up?
I used to, but then like I was backstage one day and Big Jay Okerson, I was like wearing a midriff and I was doing a spot on his set in
Jay Okerson, yeah.
He had me doing a spot in San Diego, and I walked in, he was like, it's a very sexy comedy shirt. And then like, I feel like you cursed it because I went out and the set didn't go super well.
Oh, that's
It didn't go
why.
horrible.
But it went badly
But like
enough.
I was like, suddenly I was like, is this like the wrong outfit for comedy? And so since then I've kind of...
And it's working. You dressing in the potato sack is working now.
Well, now that I took a break, and now that I've come, and I took a break for about 6 months during all the Me Too stuff. It was a little like I had to like take a mental health break from life for about 6 months because it was just like working in sex work and doing all these jobs, and just like everywhere you looked, it's just like rape, sexual assault, rape. And I was like, I'm gonna hate everyone if I need to like just check out for 6 months and like step back, let everyone kind of. Let the tidal wave wash over people, and then come back in when everyone's like, calm the fuck down. You know what I mean? But now that I've come back, I'm in full drag every time. Now when I do stand up, I'm in full drag because I'm just like,
Meaning you're another person.
I just like reclaimed it. I was like, you know what?
This is like Gandalf's journey, becoming the.
You know, if I go
Gandalf.
up there and act like
James Gandolfini?
like a normal person, it's a lie. If I'm like, I just can't get laid.
Oh, yeah.
It's so fucking dishonest. And it's like, I was like, you know what?
Yeah, please
Like-
don't do that
like,
because I see hot women go on stage
And they do that.
and they do that, and
it's
I'm
like,
like,
girl,
why? No,
shut the fuck up.
Well,
Like-
worse than that, why are you here? You're fucking lying. You're wasting my time.
Yep.
This is
Yeah.
not the art form for you. Go fucking paint a painting and go to an art gallery.
I mean, that's what I like about Whitney Cummings is I want someone to go like, I'm beautiful. I get it. Let's just get that out of the way, and now we can do jokes. Like, I appreciate that because it's like, great. Or Eliza Schlesinger's like, she's like, here's a picture of my abs. Here's my butt. I look hot. Like, okay, now that we got that out of the way, here's my shit. And I'm still funny, and people still laugh, and they still make tons of fucking money, and they're laughing all the way to the bank. And like, I appreciate that. And if a comic is attractive, like, just like acknowledge
Own it.
You
Own
know what I
what
mean?
you
Like,
are.
own it. And
Sarah
like,
Silverman.
yeah,
Very attractive,
She
very
is
funny.
like, she's probably one of my biggest comedy like crushes.
Influence?
Margaret Cho is probably my biggest influence just because I'm queer. So like, she was definitely the one. And I'm from
The Notorious Cho.
Yeah, like she's like
That
my
was an incredible concert.
my favorite comedian of all time is Stuart Lee. But when I think of
Stuart Lee?
he's my favorite of all time,
This kills
all
me.
fucking time. Him and Dylan Moran. Dylan Moran comes once a year
I
to
love
Los
Dylan
Angeles and goes
Moran,
to Largo.
too.
That's like my favorites. Oh, they're like the two.
Oh, these guys. By the way,
yeah.
Stuart Lee is. He lives in London. He's from the UK. He's from England, and he's
Just like
brilliant.
look up
you should
Stuart Lee-
YouTube Stuart Lee.
Lee's Comedy Vehicle. Like that's a great entrance.
What is? I don't even know that.
Okay, so Comedy Vehicle is a show he had on BBC
Oh,
where he
okay.
wrote a new hour every week for like.
Did he?
Yes.
He's amazing, but he's so fucking smart.
My favorite is he does this one on UKIP where he's talking about people
UKIP,
hating
yeah.
migrants. And he's like, remember, like before the Indians, before we had a national cuisine in Britain. But he keeps taking it back till he's talking about like being matter. He's like, remember before there was anything, we were just nothing, and then suddenly we came into being and there was matter. We were so much better just being nothing. Remember that? It was so great.
He was talking about how the people who argue against immigration are like, before these people came, we had a great country, right?
Brilliant.
And he just
but
pulls
he
it
takes it back to remember
It
when
was better when we were nothing.
Yeah, remember we were just matter.
That's brilliant.
And Dylan Moran is just a funny
Dylan Moran is just like
Irish.
I saw him at the Largo.
So you saw these guys at the Largo?
Well, no, Stuart Lee. Stuart Lee won't come over here. I don't know if he has I don't know if he has a thing about crossing the pond or what.
No,
but like,
I think
he just knows that he's not for us. I think
he's hilarious. He goes, Americans. Everybody says, "Oh, the Americans invented stand-up comedy. Stand-up comedy is an American." He goes, they also invented the mass shooting. Like he takes shots.
Oh God, he's so good.
We have to wrap up.
Okay,
we have to wrap up because there's another show coming in. We never got to any of the ads.
You know what? It's okay. It was a good podcast.
No, it was amazing. Sovereign, amazing. We have to have you back because I think we just scratched
I will
the
happily come back
surface.
anytime.
You did a good job.
Honestly, you guys are actually down the street from me, so this is like the easiest podcast day.
Great. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm out in HP.
You what?
I'm out in HP. The Highland Park.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm always like.
Last time I remember it was West Hollywood.
Well, that was where when I had a fancier podcast, which wasn't that fancy, but yeah, that was my producer's house.
Oh,
So, yeah.
I thought it was yours.
Yeah. No, I couldn't afford a fucking luxurious one-bedroom apartment in West Hollywood.
It was
Oh my
nice.
God.
I wanted to read this. Here we go.
You gonna read ad copy?
No, I'm going to just read the end of what we did. Okay, we didn't get to messages. We had a bunch of messages. So keep calling everybody.
Yeah.
We'll do it next week. But I was overwhelmed today by Sovereign. Like there's so many.
We needed
my head,
an hour and a half.
My head got like,
Well,
whoa.
I'm happy to come
Which
back
head?
anytime.
Yeah.
Actually, if you want to do a part 2, I'm more than happy.
Absolutely. Because
I'll bring a chart and I'll break down why Dylan Moran is genius.
Please
and then-
don't though. we need to.
No, but I just love that you can go from fucking to talking about that we need structural change.
Yeah.
And also, it is interesting that, sex and the way people have sex is so like forms of society. Like, how do you have children without having monogamy? I think it was done. Well, I don't know. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll have another hour.
That's a matriarchy, not a patriarchy.
Well, yeah, in some villages in Africa, they encourage all the men to have sex with the woman when she's fertile so that no one knows who the father is, so that they're all equally invested in the welfare of the child.
All right, so here we go. Here we go. This is the end. So I want to thank Matt Rasamoto,
our producer.
He's our producer, and we didn't get to his ad today.
But we will next week.
If you want to leave a message for us, we will do the messages. We do them weekly, but today I just got overwhelmed by Sovereign. It was a lot for me to take in as an older guy, who, Sovereign said the roses off the bloom. And I never recovered from that mark. All right. So if you want to leave a message, 424-262-0904, 424-262-0904. And let's see.
Fan mail at peptalkspodcast.com. I think I memorized that now.
There was a text we got. I could read this because I always talk about spirituality. We were talking about rage. I said, what do you do about fucking rage? I think sex would be a good one.
Yeah.
But this fella said, underneath the rage is clarity. Annoying, but there is no self to help.
That's beautiful.
That's
Was that
Buddhist.
Mark Maron?
That's poetry.
That's fucking Mark
No,
Maron.
Mark-
Come on.
No,
He doesn't write into our fucking
He's not very. I
Maron
remember.
would be like, rage is necessary. Under the rage is clarity. That's something Mark. That's something Mark would say.
That was one of our fans. Fan, whoever you are.
So here's the end. Here's the end thing. So again, if you want to leave a message, 424-262-0904. Our email is fanmail@peptalkspodcast.com. I also do a webcam thing where I will eat whatever you send me on Postmates. and I'll eat it in a very seductive, lascivious way.
This made me so hungry.
And quickly. He will eat it quickly.
Donate peptalkspodcast.com. We have a donate button that doesn't get used very often. Okay, and here's the end. I once wrestled a dozen men over a quarter. Our bare, unshaven chests glistening with exhaustion and mutual body humidity, repeatedly smacked together in a glorious display of the brutality of man. Those who survived say it was like watching our Kardashian eat. Much like you, good folk, survived another Pep Talks, only instead of years of trauma therapy, you can click the like button. And if we can get 1,000 subscribers, I'll tell you of the troublesome fate of that poor quarter. And after 10,000 subscribers, I'll let loose the story of the dozen ship-faring oil merchants that guarded her. If you are a ship-faring oil merchant with a loose quarter, take it to peptalkspodcast.com and drop it in our donate bucket that can be found somewhere on that page. And that's it. Sovereign Syre, thank you so much. And we want to plug anything? Go ahead.
Oh, yes. If you want to see my not safe for work content, you can go to onlyfans.com/Sovereign Syre. If you want to see my web series, my stand-up, all of my safe for work content is on patreon.com/Sovereign Syre. So you have 2 places you can go and give me money if you want to do that. And then if you just want to bask in my genius, you can go to twitter.com/Sovereign Syre and Instagram. Everything is Sovereign Syre. So
Cool.
any of the social medias.
Steve, do you have a webcam up yet?
I have nothing to plug.
Oh, you don't?
You can watch my cam show. It stars me and an Arab and a Latino, and we're all going to try to get out of the country climbing Trump's border wall. Thank you.
Oh my God!
Didn't someone fall? Didn't it fall over
Yes.
in the wind?
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
We're doing great. Everyone's doing great. You guys,
shit, we gotta go.
are doing great.
EddiePepitone.com. I'm going to be all over the place. I am going to be at Skankfest in Houston.
I'm going to be there.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I'm doing Naked Roast and then some other showcase spots.
Awesome. And that's in March
27th through 29th in Houston.
Oh, I'm going to be.
So we're going to be on the same comedy thing.
Oh, so
I'm sure you're doing like hours. I'm going to be doing like little showcase
Right.
spots.
So go to my website for all my dates. I'm going to be in Phoenix. I'm going to be in Memphis. I'm going to be so many places I don't even remember. I'm also going to be at South by Southwest in Austin. So I'm going to be seeing a lot of Texas, and that's going to be pretty soon, actually, in Austin. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye. Wow.
That was fun.